Mysterious archaeological discoveries that even top scientists can't explain. Hello and welcome to the Ancient History Channel. My friend, have you ever wondered, beneath those layers of earth and stone that seem to have slept quietly for thousands of years, how many secrets humanity is still hiding? Secrets that have yet to be deciphered? History does not exist only in old, dusty books. Sometimes it suddenly rises from the ground itself, leaving even the world's leading scientists standing in silence, struggling to understand what they are seeing. From strange structures and traces of ancient civilizations to artifacts whose shapes and purposes lie far beyond our imagination, all of these discoveries raise questions that even today still have no clear answers. What makes it even more fascinating is that whenever archaeologists begin an excavation, they usually hope to find only a few pottery fragments or a handful of ancient tools. But sometimes, what they uncover is something that sparks debate around the entire world. Traces that seem to belong to the wrong era, structures that ancient technology should not have been capable of building, or artifacts suggesting that human history may be far more complex than we once believed. So in the end, what are these mysterious discoveries? Are they evidence of lost civilizations, misunderstandings in the process of research, or simply pieces of a puzzle that science has not yet managed to put together? Today's journey of discovery will take you through a series of archaeological finds so mysterious that even scientists themselves admit they still cannot fully explain them. So, are you ready? If you are, let's begin with the first discovery right now. 2. 4,000-year-old skeletons found stacked on top of each other in an ancient grave on the Isle of Bute. It began as an ordinary morning in a quiet field on the Isle of Bute in Scotland. The sea breeze drifted gently across the land, and the soil was being plowed just like any other day. But this time, beneath that familiar layer of earth lay a story that had been sleeping for more than 4 millennia. Yes, you heard that right, 4 full millennia. While working in the field, a farmer accidentally struck something unusual beneath the blade of his plow. At first, he may have assumed it was just a rock or a piece of rotting wood. But as the soil was gradually pushed aside, a discovery appeared before him that would send chills down anyone's spine. An ancient grave dating back to the Bronze Age, containing human remains that had rested there for around 4,000 years. As soon as the news spread, archaeologists quickly arrived to examine this remarkable discovery. However, the deeper they dug, the more mysterious and difficult the story beneath the soil became. Archaeologists soon realized that the grave did not contain just one individual. It contained 2 people buried on top of each other. This detail immediately caught the attention of researchers because this type of burial arrangement was not always common in ancient funerary practices. The body placed on top belonged to an adult man. Based on bone analysis, experts estimate that he was between 35 and 50 years old at the time of his death. He stood about 5 feet 6 inches tall, which was fairly close to the average height for people of that era. Interestingly, markings on the skeleton suggest that he appeared to have been in relatively good health during his lifetime. There were few signs of serious illness, leading researchers to believe that he may have lived a fairly stable life within his community. But the story does not end there. Directly beneath the man lay the remains of a woman, and she was most likely a young teenage girl. The 2 skeletons were stacked together inside the same grave, as if they had been placed there as part of some special ritual thousands of years ago. So who were they to each other? Were they relatives, husband and wife, or simply 2 individuals buried together for reasons that history has long forgotten? To search for answers, scientists carried out chemical analyses on the bones of both individuals. The results revealed an interesting detail. Their diet appeared to contain very little protein from marine sources, even though they lived on an island. Instead, most of their nutrition came from land-based protein, possibly from domesticated animals or plants. This discovery helped researchers gain a better understanding of the lifestyle of the ancient community that once lived in this region. However, despite numerous analyses, scientists still cannot determine the exact relationship between the man and the young girl. They are also unsure whether the 2 were buried at the same time or if one burial took place sometime after the other. For now, those questions remain unanswered, like a missing piece of history that has yet to be fully put together. 5,000-year-old rock. Carving reveals a mysterious ancient Egyptian conquest. In the dry desert of the Sinai Peninsula, where sun-scorched mountain ranges stretch all the way to the horizon, archaeologists have discovered a detail that is prompting ancient history to take another look at itself. At the site of Wadi Kamila in southern Sinai, an ancient rock carving has unexpectedly emerged after being hidden beneath the dust and sand of time for thousands of years. What makes this discovery particularly remarkable is its age, around 3000 BC, meaning it was created nearly 5,000 years ago. Hearing that, many people might wonder, what could be so special about a rock carving that it would attract so much attention from archaeologists? I wondered the same thing at first. But when you look closely at the images carved into the surface of the rock, the story behind them quickly becomes fascinating. At the center of the carving is the image of a man walking with both arms raised, as if displaying his strength. This pose is far from random. In ancient art, especially in the great civilizations, such gestures often symbolize power, victory, and domination. Directly beneath that figure, however, is a completely different scene. Another man kneeling on the ground with his hands tied behind his back. To make matters even more dramatic, an arrow appears to be lodged straight into his chest. That detail alone turns the rock carving into a vivid story from the distant past. It is not merely a work of art. It resembles a visual record of an event that took place thousands of years ago. And if you look even more closely, behind the kneeling man, there is also the image of a boat. For many ancient civilizations, a boat was simply a means of transportation. But for ancient Egypt, boats carried a much deeper meaning. They symbolized power, strength, and control over territory, especially during expeditions and trading missions. When all of these details are considered together, archaeologists believe that the rock carving at Wadi Kamila is unlikely to be a random drawing. It may actually be depicting the success of an ancient Egyptian expedition in the southern Sinai region. Interestingly, this area has long been known for containing numerous ancient traces connected to Egypt. In the past, researchers have discovered some of the earliest carvings and inscriptions describing Egypt's military and economic control over local communities. This suggests that the Sinai Peninsula was not merely a barren wilderness. Instead, it once served as an important strategic region. During the pre-dynastic period, the early dynastic period, and even the Old Kingdom, Egyptian rulers frequently organized large expeditions to this region. Their objective was clear: to exploit the valuable resources that the Sinai Peninsula had to offer. From minerals and precious stones to raw materials used for construction and craftsmanship, these resources made the region a vital destination for the ancient Egyptian economy. And the artistic relief discovered this time appears to be a visual piece of that larger story. It almost functions like a declaration carved in stone, a declaration of victory, of power, and of Egypt's success in extending its influence into southern Sinai. You see, even though it is just a rock carving on a desert cliff, it can still tell us an entire chapter of history stretching back thousands of years, and that in itself is truly fascinating. Mammoth skull, containing a strange object, shocks the archaeological world. In the freezing lands of Russia, there is an archaeological site where, almost every time scientists set foot there, they are nearly guaranteed to uncover something that forces history to add a few new lines to its story. That place is the Zaraysk Archaeological Site, an ancient site located not far from what is now the Moscow region. At first glance, many people might think it is just an ordinary stretch of land, with layers of soil and stone piled up over tens of thousands of years. But in reality, deep beneath the ground lie the remains of one of the oldest known human settlements in the Moscow region. For many years, archaeologists working there have uncovered numerous pieces of evidence showing that humans once lived in this area during the Paleolithic period, also known as the Old Stone Age. The remains of ancient dwellings, crude stone tools, and traces of ancient fireplaces all tell the story of people who lived here tens of thousands of years ago. But that's not all. The area is also famous for the large number of fossils belonging to a gigantic animal that once dominated the icy landscapes of prehistoric times, the woolly mammoth. Paleontologists have repeatedly discovered mammoth skulls, bones, and teeth at this site, suggesting that these enormous animals were once very common in the region. Researchers have also uncovered an ancient hearth filled with burned animal bones, along with traces of charcoal and scattered layers of red ochre throughout the area. These details show that prehistoric people not only hunted mammoths, but also knew how to use fire and organize relatively complex daily activities. However, among the many discoveries at Zaraisk, one recent find has truly surprised the archaeological community. During excavations and analysis using modern archaeological techniques, experts from the Russian Academy of Sciences discovered a woolly mammoth skull that appeared to be quite unusual. At first glance, it looked like any other fossilized skull. But upon closer examination, scientists realized that this skull was not simply the remains of an animal that had died tens of thousands of years ago. Instead, it appeared to have been used by humans as a kind of natural storage container. It sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? A massive mammoth skull used to store objects. According to researchers, people during the Paleolithic period took advantage of the hollow structure inside the skull to store various items. This discovery immediately caused a stir in the archaeological world because it suggests that prehistoric humans were not simply surviving on instinct, they were also capable of intelligently using the resources around them. The leader of the archaeological team, Sergei Lev, of the Institute of Archaeology at the Russian Academy of Sciences, explained that the researchers found quartz objects and tools used for making weapons hidden inside the mammoth skull. This means that the enormous skull may once have served as a place to store important items for the people living in this ancient settlement. However, one question still remains unanswered. Was this simply a personal storage place, or was it a shared storage space used by an entire group of people? For now, no one can say for certain. But one thing is clear. Every time another layer of ancient soil at Zaraisk is uncovered, the past reveals yet another hidden secret. And sometimes, something as simple as a mammoth skull can tell us an entire story about the creativity, adaptability, and intelligence of humans who lived tens of thousands of years ago. For archaeologists, discoveries like this carry truly enormous significance. The mysterious attic mummy, a shocking discovery by a 10-year-old boy in Germany. You know, the world of archaeology is full of fascinating stories. Some archaeological discoveries don't begin in deserts, pyramids, or massive excavation sites. Sometimes they start in the most ordinary places, like a dusty attic in an old house. What makes this story even more unbelievable is that the person who discovered it was not a scientist or an archaeologist. It was simply a 10-year-old boy. That boy's name is Alexander Kettler, who lives in the town of Diepholz in Lower Saxony, Germany, in the northern part of the country. One day, while curiously exploring his grandmother's attic, a place usually filled with old items that had been forgotten for years, Alexander suddenly came across a rather unusual large chest. Inside the chest was a stone coffin carved with patterns that looked strikingly similar to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. And what was even more astonishing was that inside the coffin, there was a mummy wrapped tightly in layers of bandages. Hearing this, many people might wonder, how could an Egyptian mummy end up in the attic of a house in Germany? It does sound hard to believe, but the story doesn't end there. Along with the mummy, the coffin also contained an ancient mask and a special jar, the type of container that people in ancient Egypt once used to store internal organs after they were removed from the body during the mummification process. All of these items had been placed inside a wooden crate, much like the way historical artifacts are often stored or transported. Naturally, the discovery shocked Alexander's family. His father, Lutz Wolfgang Kettler, who works as a dentist, could hardly believe that such a strange object had been sitting quietly in the attic for years without anyone noticing. What surprised him even more was that the mummy had no odor at all, and it seemed to have been there for at least over 40 years without being discovered. Faced with such an unusual situation, Mr. Kettler decided not to examine the mummy himself by taking x-rays or unwrapping the bandages. Instead, he planned to load the coffin into his car and transport it to Berlin, where experts and researchers could conduct a more thorough examination. But what makes this story even more intriguing is the possible origin of the mummy. According to Mr. Kettler, his father, Alexander's grandfather, once traveled to North Africa in the 1950s. It is quite possible that during that trip, he brought home a very unusual souvenir from Egypt. It may sound unbelievable, but in the mid-20th century, the buying and selling of Egyptian mummies did sometimes occur in certain places. Wealthy collectors or tourists occasionally brought artifacts, and sometimes even mummies, home as display pieces. Because of that, the possibility that this coffin in the attic actually came from Egypt is not entirely unreasonable. However, researchers cannot draw any immediate conclusions. They still need to determine whether the mummy and the accompanying objects are truly ancient Egyptian artifacts thousands of years old, or simply very skillfully made replicas. Or perhaps something entirely different that no one has even considered yet. So who was the mummy really? Did it truly come from ancient Egypt? And if it is authentic, how did it end up inside an ordinary house in Germany? Perhaps the answers are still hidden somewhere within the layers of bandages wrapped around that mummy, waiting for scientists to uncover them. The only question is when those discoveries will finally be made, and when they will be officially revealed to the public. For now, no one can say with 100% certainty, so until then, we'll just have to wait and see. The Maya monster mouth city, revealed in the jungles of Mexico, a mysterious gateway to the underworld. Deep within the nearly untouched jungle of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, an unexpected archaeological discovery has captured the attention of scientists. Hidden beneath dense tree canopies and layers of soil that have built up over centuries, the remains of an ancient Maya city have gradually come to light. What makes this place remarkable is not only its ruined pyramids and ancient palaces, but also a strange stone gateway carved in the shape of the mouth of a gigantic monster. The traces of this ancient city were discovered in dense jungle in the central Yucatan Peninsula, southeast of the Mexican state of Campeche. The vegetation in this region is so thick that reaching the area by land is nearly impossible. For many years, the site seemed like a forgotten land, where nature had completely reclaimed everything that humans once built. Interestingly, the clue that led to this discovery came from aerial photographs. The leader of the expedition, archaeologist Ivan Spraj from the Research Center of the Slovenian Academy of Sciences and Arts, ZRCCZU, explained that satellite images helped his team pinpoint the exact location of ancient ruins hidden deep within the forest. The research team's survey area covered roughly 1,780 square miles, located between two well-known archaeological regions, Riobec and Chinas. These regions once flourished during the early Classic to late Classic periods of Maya civilization, roughly between 600 and 1000 AD, and it was here that the traces of a mysterious ancient city slowly began to emerge. The most distinctive feature of this city is its entrance, which was carved into the shape of the mouth of a gigantic monster. From a distance, the stone doorway looks like a wide-open jaw, giving the impression that anyone entering the structure is walking straight through the mouth of a mythical creature. According to Ivan Sprajis, this imagery was not accidental. In Maya belief, the monster mouth symbol represented a deity associated with fertility and life force. At the same time, it was believed to symbolize the entrance to a sacred cave, one that could connect the living world with the underworld or the spirits of ancestors. In fact, this area had been mentioned decades earlier. In the 1970s, American archaeologist Eric von O discovered several stone stelae at the site. He produced sketches of some of the ancient structures, but these documents were never widely published. More importantly, the exact location of the city he called Lagunita remained a mystery for many years. According to Ivan Spraj, the old information about Lagunita was quite vague and offered little help in identifying its real location. However, after comparing von Ov's drawings with the structures recently discovered in the jungle, the research team was finally able to confirm the exact site of what was once known as the city of Lagunita. As they continued exploring the area, archaeologists uncovered many important features. In the central part of the city, there are large palace complexes, a pyramid temple standing nearly 66 feet tall, and 10 ancient stone stelae. Researchers also found 3 low circular stone altars and several relief carvings featuring the distinctive hieroglyphic writing of the Maya. One of the stelae particularly caught the attention of researchers. According to a preliminary translation by researcher Octavio Esparza Olguin from the National Autonomous University of Mexico, the inscription on this stone monument dates to November 29, 711 AD. However, the rest of the text, including the names of the ruling king and queen, has been heavily eroded by time and can no longer be clearly read, but the discoveries did not stop there. The archaeological team also identified another ancient city located near Lagunita. They named this site Tamchin, a Maya word meaning deep well. The name comes from a very distinctive feature of the city. Researchers discovered about 30 underground water chambers dug deep into the ground to collect rainwater. One of these chambers reaches a depth of nearly 43 feet, an impressive achievement for ancient engineering. Like Lagunita, the center of Tamchen is also surrounded by large structures. Archaeologists identified a central courtyard with 3 temples positioned along its sides, along with a pyramid, a stone monument, and an ancient altar. These discoveries have raised many new questions about Maya civilization. According to Ivan Spraj, the 2 newly identified cities demonstrate the remarkable diversity of Maya culture and architecture. At the same time, they serve as a reminder that many archaeological sites may still be hidden within this vast jungle, waiting for the day when humans finally uncover them. 48-million-year-old fossil of a water-walking lizard that once roamed the earth. A lizard that can run across the surface of water without sinking. It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, doesn't it? If you think so, you might be surprised to learn that creatures with this remarkable ability have actually existed in nature. Because of this unusual skill, scientists often refer to them by the intriguing nickname Jesus lizards, a reference to the story in the Bible about Jesus Christ walking on water. Recently, an extraordinary fossil discovery has helped scientists better understand the ancient origins of this unusual group of reptiles. The story begins in the state of Wyoming in the United States, where researchers discovered the fossil of a previously unknown species of lizard. The fossil has been dated to about 48 million years ago, during the second stage of the Paleogene period, a time when Earth was experiencing a warm climate often described as a giant greenhouse. The fossil was found in a well-known geological area called the Bridger Formation, which has long been recognized as a treasure trove of ancient life. At this site, scientists have excavated countless fossils of animals that lived tens of millions of years ago. But this time, the discovery was a lizard so unusual that it immediately drew significant attention from paleontologists. The new species has been given the scientific name Bobibasiliscus alxi. According to researchers, this creature may represent one of the earliest known members of the lizard family Corytophanidae, also known as casca-headed lizards, species distinguished by a prominent bony crest on their heads that resembles a helmet. Details about this ancient lizard were published by researcher Jack Conrad, who described the discovery in the scientific journal PLOS One. According to Conrad, Bobibasiliscus alxi may represent some of the earliest members of this lizard lineage in evolutionary history. In terms of size, the animal was not particularly large. Scientists estimate its body length to have been about 24 inches, roughly comparable to a medium-sized lizard today. However, what made it truly distinctive was its head. On top of its skull was a raised bony crest, somewhat like a small crown or ridge. Researchers believe this structure may have helped provide shade for the animal's eyes, giving its face a somewhat grumpy appearance, almost as if it always looked slightly angry. Beyond its unusual appearance, the diet of Bobibasiliscus alxi was also quite varied. Its small teeth were well suited for catching and eating snakes, small lizards, fish, and insects. Scientists also believe that it may have occasionally eaten certain types of plants. Even more interesting, the relatively large cheekbone structure suggests that this creature may have been capable of handling prey larger than what many similar lizards typically eat. As for its habitat, the modern relatives of this group of lizards are mostly found today in warm, humid forests near the equator, ranging from southern Mexico to northern South America. Because of this, researchers believe that their ancient ancestors, including Bobibasiliscus alxi, likely lived in similar environmental conditions. And this detail is what makes the discovery especially important. The fossil of this 48-million-year-old lizard not only helps scientists understand more about animal evolution, but also provides valuable data about Earth's climate during the greenhouse world that existed around 50 million years ago. At that time, global temperatures were significantly warmer than they are today, and tropical forests spread into regions where we would hardly expect to see them now. By comparing data from fossils like this with modern ecosystems, scientists can gain a clearer understanding of how living organisms adapted to climate change in the past. Looking at the bigger picture, discoveries like this do more than tell the story of a single ancient lizard species. They also help us see a much larger picture, how climate change has influenced life on Earth in the past, and how it may continue to affect living species today. And understanding that process is truly important for maintaining the balance of ecosystems on our planet. The 3,000-year-old shaman's tomb and the mysterious power of the jaguar. High in the mountains of Peru, where ancient valleys once nurtured the mysterious civilizations of South America, archaeologists have discovered a tomb that has drawn significant attention from the research community. The discovery was made near the city of Cajamarca, within a well-known archaeological site called the Pacoampa Archaeological Complex. This site has been studied by scientists from Peru and Japan since 2005 because the area contains many traces of ancient communities that lived there thousands of years ago. During a recent excavation, researchers uncovered this remarkable tomb. Inside the tomb were the skeletal remains of a man who lived around 3,000 years ago. But what makes this burial unusual is not only its age, but also the strange burial objects placed alongside the deceased. From the very first signs, archaeologists suspected that the individual buried there was not an ordinary person. Several pieces of evidence suggest he may have been a shaman, or a figure with high spiritual status within the ancient community that once lived in this region. One of the most notable artifacts found in the tomb was a set of 3 ceramic seals. These seals were likely used to stamp designs onto the body, possibly during religious ceremonies or special rituals. Among them, the most striking seal bears the image of a jaguar, an animal that held deep symbolic meaning in many ancient cultures of the Americas. For many early societies in Central and South America, the jaguar was not merely a powerful wild animal. It was also seen as a symbol of strength, authority, and the ability to connect with the spiritual world. In some ancient cultures, the animal was even kept as a pet by members of the ruling elite. For that reason, the presence of a jaguar seal in this tomb has led scientists to believe that the man buried there may have been regarded as a special figure, someone believed to possess the ability to channel or connect with the power of this animal. The tomb contained more than just the seals. Researchers also found several finely decorated ceramic vessels. Around 3,000 years ago, objects like these were not commonly owned. They were considered valuable items and were usually associated with important rituals or with the burials of individuals from high social ranks. Another detail that adds to the mystery of the tomb is that the face of the skeleton was covered with a layer of red cinnabar. Cinnabar is a rare mineral, and according to researchers, its source may have come from the central highlands of the Andes Mountains. This suggests that the material may have been transported along long-distance trade routes, something typically accessible only to members of the upper class. This information was emphasized by Yuji Seki, an archaeologist from the National Museum of Ethnology, Japan, and co-director of the archaeological project at Pacoampa. According to him, the use of cinnabar in burial rituals is often associated with individuals who held special roles in ancient societies. Based on the artifacts discovered, many researchers believe this shaman may have been seen as someone capable of connecting with the spiritual power of the jaguar, the snake, and the bird, 3 animals that frequently appear in the spiritual symbolism of many ancient cultures in the Andean region. He may have served as a healer, a ritual specialist, or a mediator between humans and the world of the gods. People in the community likely came to him for advice, healing, or explanations for problems they could not understand. However, archaeologists have not yet conducted radiocarbon dating on the artifacts found in the tomb. The current estimate of 3,000 years is based on the style and design of the artifacts, which closely resemble objects from the same period previously discovered at the Pacoampa complex. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this discovery is that each artifact in the tomb acts like a small piece of history. When put together, they allow scientists to begin forming a picture of a man who lived 3 millennia ago, a mysterious shaman who may once have held great spiritual authority within his ancient community. Yet, as with many archaeological discoveries, the deeper researchers dig, the more they realize that countless secrets still lie hidden beneath the ancient soils of the Andes Mountains. The mysterious giant footprints in a 3,000-year-old temple. In the ancient lands of the Middle East, once the cradle of countless great civilizations in human history, there is a temple that leaves almost anyone who visits it in awe. Not because of gigantic statues, and not because of treasures made of gold and silver, but because of an extremely strange detail carved directly into the stone floor of the temple. These are enormous footprints, so large that many people cannot help but wonder, could they have been made by some kind of giant creature? These mysterious footprints were discovered at the Mohenjodaro Temple, an ancient temple located northwest of the city of Aleppo in the country of Syria. The discovery was first recorded in 1955, when archaeologists began excavating the ancient ruins of the site. The excavation at that time was led by Ali Abu Asaf, a researcher who spent many years studying the history of this remarkable temple. According to archaeological research, the Ayan Dara temple dates from approximately 1300 to 740 BC, meaning it existed during the Iron Age, an important era in the ancient history of the Middle East. Researchers believe the temple may have been built even earlier than the legendary Temple of Solomon described in the Bible. Looking at its overall structure, the Ayan Dara temple was designed with three main sections. The first is the entrance porch, where pilgrims or participants in religious ceremonies would enter. Next comes the antechamber, and finally the main hall, where the most sacred sanctuary of the temple was located. The entire structure was decorated with hundreds of intricate carvings depicting various figures, such as lions, angels, mythical creatures, mountain gods, and many complex geometric patterns. All of these details indicate that this site was once an important religious center in ancient times. But among all these works of art, the feature that captured researchers' attention the most lies directly on the stone floor. There are 4 enormous footprints, each measuring about 3.3 feet long, much larger than the footprint of an average human. The first 2 footprints are positioned side by side at the entrance porch of the temple. Ahead of them is another footprint, and the final footprint appears right at the entrance leading into the main hall. This arrangement makes it seem as though some giant being walked step by step into the temple. What makes the discovery even more intriguing is that the 2 footprints at the back include both a left and a right footprint, closely resembling human feet. The distance between these footprints is about 30 feet. If these truly represented the stride of a living creature, a single step would be almost as long as a bus. Because of this, some people have proposed a rather bold hypothesis. If a creature could take a step as long as 30 feet, its height might have reached around 65 feet. From there, stories about ancient giants began to emerge around the Ayan Dara temple. Of course, scientists remain cautious about such speculation. Many archaeologists believe that these footprints may simply be religious symbols carved into the stone floor to represent the presence of gods entering the temple. In many ancient cultures, carving the footprints of deities was a way to symbolize the sacred nature of a place of worship. But whether they are symbolic representations or a mythological story recorded in stone, the giant footprints at Ayan Dara continue to spark curiosity. Do they represent a god stepping into the temple? Or are they simply an artistic detail meant to impress pilgrims who came to worship there? Even today, the mystery of the giant footprints in this ancient temple still has no definitive answer. So what do you think? What is your answer? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below so we can discuss it together. The warship that lay beneath the sea for 500 years, the tragic mystery of the Mary Rose. Some ships are more than just vessels used for battle at sea. They become part of history itself, and when they sink into the ocean, their stories often seem to sink with them. Yet sometimes, after hundreds of years, the past unexpectedly rises back into the light. The story of the Mary Rose is one such case. Nearly 500 years ago, this ship was once the pride of the English Navy. It was built during the reign of Henry VIII, a king well known for his ambition to transform England into a powerful naval force. At that time, the Mary Rose was not simply a warship, it also symbolized the military strength of the United Kingdom during a turbulent period in European history. However, the history of this legendary ship ended in a deeply tragic way. On July 19, 1545, during a tense naval battle with the fleet of France, the Mary Rose suddenly met disaster just off the coast of the Isle of Wight. While the battle was underway and King Henry VIII himself was directing the attack from the shoreline, the massive ship suddenly tilted to one side and sank into the sea within just a few minutes. At that moment, more than 500 royal sailors and soldiers were on board. When the Mary Rose went down, most of them had no time to escape. According to historical records, only about 30 people survived, while hundreds of others perished along with the ship. It became one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in the history of the English Navy. After the disaster, the Mary Rose disappeared beneath the cold waters of the sea for centuries. The ship lay silently on the seafloor, gradually covered by layers of mud, sand, and time. Its story remained part of history, but the exact location of the wreck was lost for nearly 500 years. It was not until 1982 that a major archaeological project was launched to recover the legendary vessel. The work was carried out by the Mary Rose Trust with support from the Mary Rose Museum in the city of Portsmouth. This effort is considered one of the most complex and expensive underwater archaeological projects ever undertaken. After years of work on the ocean floor, archaeologists finally succeeded in raising part of the hull of the Mary Rose to the surface. But what surprised them even more was what they found inside the wreck. Thousands of ancient artifacts had been preserved beneath layers of seabed mud for centuries. Weapons, naval equipment, sailors' personal belongings, and even wooden fragments from the ship itself all helped recreate a vivid picture of the lives of sailors in the 16th century. Another remarkable discovery was around 9,000 pieces of human bone recovered during the excavation. Although not all of them could be precisely identified, the research of bioarchaeologist Anne Sterland helped reconstruct many of the skeletons in considerable detail. From these remains, scientists estimate that at least 179 people were on board the ship at the moment it sank. Further research, including ancient DNA analysis and studies of disease markers on the bones, has helped scientists learn more about the lives of these sailors. Researchers have discovered the kinds of illnesses they suffered from, what their diets were like, and the hardships they faced while living at sea during the Renaissance. The wreck also revealed fascinating stories about animals. Among the discoveries was the complete skeleton of a dog named Hatch, believed to have been similar to today's Jack Russell Terrier. The dog may have lived alongside the sailors on the ship before the tragedy occurred. In addition, traces of cod bones from the region of Newfoundland, along with preserved salted meats, were found. These small details show that the Mary Rose was once part of a global trade network that was beginning to form during that period. Today, the surviving hull of the ship has been carefully preserved and is displayed at the Mary Rose Museum in Portsmouth. Thousands of artifacts recovered from the ship are also exhibited there, helping visitors and researchers better understand the lives of sailors who lived nearly 500 years ago. If you ever have the chance to visit this museum, you will not simply see a reconstructed ancient ship. You will be standing in front of a real piece of history, where every plank of wood, every artifact, and every skeleton tells the story of a legendary ship and the people who lived, fought, and ultimately lost their lives in the ocean centuries ago. Dogu, Japan's oldest mystery. Have you ever wondered, before humans learned how to write and record history through language, what did they think about, what did they believe in, and how did they express those beliefs? What remains from the past, a broken pot, a fragment of bone, or a small clay figurine, may be the key that opens a door into the spiritual world of our ancestors. Among the most mysterious artifacts ever discovered are the dogu, small clay figurines created by prehistoric people in Japan that have remained an unsolved mystery for thousands of years. The word dogu literally means clay figure. These objects appeared toward the end of the Jomon period, a remarkably long era that lasted from about 14,000 BC to 300 BC. Over thousands of years, while the people of ancient Japan lived as hunters and gatherers and gradually transitioned into more settled communities with early forms of agriculture, they created these unusual figurines. Measuring only about 4 to 12 inches tall, dogu figures have human-like shapes. Many appear to represent women, with large circular eyes that look almost like goggles, narrow waists, wide hips, and sometimes even swollen, pregnant bellies. But what motivated people to shape these figures? We have very few clues that reveal the true purpose of dogu. Written language did not appear in Japan until around the 6th century AD, thousands of years after dogu had already disappeared from history. Because of this, modern explanations remain largely speculative and are based mainly on the figure's appearance and the archaeological contexts in which they were found. They may have been symbols of fertility, objects used in rituals for childbirth, or tools used by shamans in religious ceremonies. Some scholars even connect dogu with Neolithic mother goddess figurines such as the Venus of Willendorf, objects widely believed to symbolize fertility, life, and rebirth. Even more fascinating is the fact that dogu do not follow a single design. Instead, archaeologists generally classify them into 4 main styles: the pregnant woman type, the horned owl type, the slit-eye type, and the heart-shaped or crescent eyebrow type. Among these, the slit-eye type, known as shakoki dogu, is so distinctive that it has become the most recognizable image associated with dogu in Japan. The name Shikoki means light-blocking device because the large circular eyes resemble protective snow goggles traditionally used by the Inuit. The appearance of these figures is so unusual that some theories have even suggested that Dogu might represent extraterrestrial beings. It may sound like a wild idea, but since we have no written records to confirm what is correct, many possibilities remain open to discussion. What makes Dogu especially mysterious is not only their appearance, but also the way they are discovered. Very few Dogu are found intact. Most are missing arms, legs, or heads, and in many cases, the breaks appear to have been made intentionally. This has led some researchers to wonder whether the figurines were deliberately broken as part of a ritual, perhaps a symbolic sacrifice once they had fulfilled their spiritual purpose. So what exactly are Dogu? Are they representations of gods, protective charms for women, or simply toys from prehistoric times? We may never know the precise answer. Yet it is this very mystery that makes Dogu such a vivid symbol of the past, where each small figurine is like a fragment of history hidden beneath layers of time. And every time archaeologists uncover another Dogu, humanity moves one small step closer to answering an eternal question: who are we and where did we come from? The mystery of Mohenjodaro, the Mound of the Dead. Mohenjodaro, often called the Mound of the Dead, is one of the oldest and most mysterious cities ever known to humanity. It carries within it stories of great prosperity and a sudden disappearance that left almost no trace behind. And if you think history is nothing more than dry stories from the past, Mohenjodaro might make you think again. Located in Sindh, Pakistan, Mohenjodaro was once one of the largest centers of the ancient Indus Valley civilization. It was a magnificent city built around 2600 BC during the same era as the civilizations of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Yet surprisingly, humans did not discover the existence of the city until 1922. From that moment on, the mysteries surrounding Mohenjodaro only became even more fascinating. So why is Mohenjodaro called the Mound of the Dead? The answer is not simply because of its name, but because of the mysterious way the city disappeared. This was once a thriving urban center, home to an estimated 35,000 residents. The people there built an organized community with carefully planned streets and an advanced underground drainage system, something that even many modern cities still struggle to achieve today. And remember, all of this was accomplished more than 4,000 years ago. Of course, what makes Mohenjodaro remarkable is not only its prosperity, but also its unique architecture. The structures here were built primarily from baked bricks, rather than stone as seen in many other ancient cities. This suggests that the people who lived here possessed architectural and technological knowledge far ahead of their time. They did not just construct sturdy buildings, they also paid attention to convenience and the long-term sustainability of their city. But what could have caused such a beautiful and advanced city to suddenly disappear? That question is exactly what archaeologists still cannot answer with certainty. For decades, researchers have searched for clues in ancient seals engraved with pictographic symbols and in the remains of everyday life left behind by the city's former inhabitants. Yet to this day, no widely accepted theory has been established to explain the collapse of Mohenjodaro. Some believe that a natural disaster, such as earthquakes, massive flooding, or sudden climate change, may have caused the city to fade into oblivion. Others suggest that an invasion by another civilization might have completely destroyed it. Whatever the true cause may be, Mohenjodaro continues to hold on to its mystery without a clear explanation. This is what makes it one of the most fascinating stories in human history, a story that inevitably comes to mind whenever we talk about ancient civilizations. By now, you are probably wondering what really happened to Mohenjodaro. What was the true reason that caused this city to disappear? But the answer may take a very long time to uncover, because even today, this ancient site still hides so many secrets that even renowned scientists have struggled to fully explain. As you can see, the deeper we dig into history, the more we realize that humanity's past still contains countless gaps that have yet to be filled. Mysterious archaeological discoveries not only challenge scientists, but also make the journey of exploring history more fascinating than ever before. Every artifact and every ancient structure that is uncovered is like a small piece of a massive puzzle that forms the picture of our past. Unfortunately, many of those pieces are still missing. Because of that, even today, many mysteries remain unsolved, continuing to challenge human understanding and waiting for future generations of scientists to uncover their secrets. So, which discovery impressed you the most? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any other fascinating discoveries. For now, goodbye, and see you in the next video.